My dear friends, pause for a moment and consider this quiet truth. Every circumstance in your life, every relationship, every condition that surrounds you is speaking to you in a voice you yourself have supplied. The world does not talk to you with words of its own. It only echoes the silent conversation you continually hold within about yourself and about life. This inner speech, this unseen dialogue, is the true builder of your days and nights. It is not the loud voices of the world that determine your fate, but the gentle, persistent murmur within your own mind. If you have ever wondered why certain patterns repeat, why some doors remain closed while others open effortlessly, look no further than the conversation you're having with yourself when no one else is listening. Let this thought settle upon you now, not with force, but with the calm certainty of something long known, yet perhaps forgotten. For in understanding the power of your inner conversations, you touch the very secret of creation itself. Now, let us dwell gently upon this principle, allowing it to unfold in its own time. You see, man lives in two worlds at once: the outer world of effects, which he beholds with his senses, and the inner world of causes, where imagination reigns supreme. Most live unaware of the inner world, believing that their circumstances speak first and that they must respond, but the truth is the reverse. It is the inner conversation that speaks first, and the outer world merely replies. When you say within yourself, silently or aloud, "I am overlooked, I am never chosen, things always go wrong for me," you are not describing reality, you are creating it. These are not observations, they are assumptions clothed in feeling, and feeling is the secret that gives them life. The great shift, the true awakening, comes when you realize that you may choose an entirely different conversation. Instead of speaking from lack or limitation, you begin to speak from fulfillment. You do not plead for love, for health, for abundance. You speak as one who is already loved, already whole, already surrounded by plenty. This is not pretense, it is the occupation of a new state of consciousness. Imagine a scene, simple and natural, in which your desire is already realized. Perhaps a friend congratulates you warmly, or someone addresses you with deep respect, or you feel the quiet ease of security within. Do not observe this scene from afar as though it were a distant hope. Enter into it, hear the voices as though they were speaking now. Feel the hand clasp, the smile, the tone of certainty in their words, and above all, allow yourself to respond inwardly from the feeling of its reality. This inner conversation, when faithfully maintained, is the most powerful force you possess. It is not the words themselves that matter, but the feeling they evoke, the quiet assumption that this is now your truth. Many think of manifestation as something to be achieved through outer action or prolonged effort, but I tell you, the outer follows the inner as surely as the shadow follows the substance. When your inner speech changes, when you cease telling the old story of limitation and begin telling the new story of fulfillment, the world has no choice but to conform. People who once ignored you begin to notice. Opportunities that seemed impossible appear as natural. Circumstances rearrange themselves to match the conversation you now hold within. Consider how natural this is. A man who believes himself to be fortunate does not question good fortune when it arrives. He expects it. One who inwardly converses as a person of authority does not need to demand respect. It is freely given. The inner conversation is the mold into which experience is poured. If the mold is one of peace, peace flows in. If it is one of harmony, harmony appears. You do not need to concern yourself with how this happens. Your part is simply to remain faithful to the new conversation, to return to it gently whenever the old one tries to resume. As you begin to live from this understanding, you will notice that the inner dialogue becomes quieter, more natural. It is no longer a deliberate effort to convince yourself, it is the natural speech of one who knows. You speak to yourself not with striving, but with the calm assurance of one who has already arrived. And in that calm assurance lies all power. The desire is no longer something out there to be pursued, it is the state from which you now live. Your inner conversations become the gentle confirmation of a reality already established within. Let this truth deepen within you. The conversations you hold when alone, when falling asleep, when waking, these are the seeds of tomorrow. Plant carefully. Speak only what you would joyfully see grow. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of and feeling through your inner speech that you become. Dwell in the conversation of the wish fulfilled, and the fulfillment must follow as naturally as day follows night. Rest in this knowing and let it carry you forward into the quiet certainty that all is already well within. And now, as this understanding settles quietly within you, let us carry it into the gentle flow of your daily hours, where the true testing and deepening occur. For it is one thing to glimpse the power of inner conversation in a moment of stillness, and quite another to remain faithful to it amid the voices and scenes of the world. You will find that life continually presents you with opportunities to resume the old dialogue. A remark is made, a letter arrives, a mirror reflects something you would rather not see, and immediately the old inner speech begins. See, it is still the same. Nothing has changed. I am always treated thus. In that moment, do not argue with the appearance. Do not struggle to force a different feeling. Simply observe the conversation that is arising within you, and with the softness of one turning away from a fading dream, return to the new. Watch yourself through the day, not with tension or self-reproach, but with the quiet interest of one who has discovered a hidden spring. Notice how often the inner voice speaks of limitation, how readily it interprets events to confirm the old story. These are not truths being revealed, they are only habits of thought, echoes of states long occupied. When you catch them, do not resist them violently, for resistance gives them strength. Instead, let them pass like clouds across an open sky and gently resume the conversation of fulfillment. Speak within yourself as the one who is already whole would speak. If the desire concerns love, let the inner voice say silently, "How wonderful to be so loved," feeling the warmth of it. If it concerns supply, let the quiet thought be, "All my needs are met abundantly," with the ease of one who knows. This return is the true persistence, not a fierce battle, but a faithful returning. You will discover that the world is remarkably sensitive to these inner conversations. People who once spoke sharply begin to soften their tone. Circumstances that seemed fixed begin to shift, almost imperceptibly at first. A chance encounter, a forgotten door suddenly opening, these are not coincidences. They are the outer world replying to the new speech within. Yet there will be intervals when the old echoes linger, when the outer picture seems unchanged. In those moments, loyalty is everything. Loyalty not to effort, but to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do not ask how long it will take. Do not watch for signs. Simply remain true to the inner dialogue you have chosen. Hear the imagined voices congratulating you, advising you, honoring you. Hear them as clearly and naturally as you once heard the voices of doubt. As the days unfold, this practice becomes less deliberate and more habitual. The new conversation arises more readily, the old less insistently. You find yourself responding to life from a deeper center. Someone speaks slightingly, and instead of the familiar inner defense or hurt, there is a quiet detachment followed by the gentle return to the feeling of being esteemed. A delay appears, and instead of anxiety, there is the calm inner speech of one who knows all is working together perfectly. This is the fruit of persistence, not a strained holding on, but a natural dwelling in. The inner conversation no longer feels like something you are doing. It feels like the natural expression of who you now are. And in the quiet hours, especially as sleep approaches, let the inner dialogue be loving and certain. Review the day not to find fault, but to gently revise any moment where the old speech intruded. See the scene as you would have it be, hear the words as they ought to have been spoken, feel the harmony that was always possible. Then drift into sleep, hearing only the lullaby of fulfillment. Friends speaking kindly, conditions perfectly arranged, yourself moving through life with grace and ease. This nightly conversation is precious beyond measure, for in sleep your inner speech goes deep into the subconscious, planting seeds that must bear fruit. Let this loyalty grow softly within you. There is no strain here, only the quiet refusal to return to the old story. Whenever the world presents its former picture, smile inwardly and resume the new. The power lies not in volume of words, but in fidelity to feeling. Remain loyal to the conversation of the one who has already received, and the receipt must follow. The outer world, ever obedient, will speak in perfect accord with the voice you have steadfastly maintained within. Rest in this gentle persistence, knowing that every return to the new conversation is an act of creation, shaping tomorrow with the quiet certainty of today. And now, as this quiet loyalty to the new conversation has woven itself into the fabric of your days, a deeper stillness begins to dawn. The effort that once accompanied your return to the feeling of fulfillment softens and falls away. You no longer need to remind yourself to revise, to persist, to choose the new voice. The new conversation has become the natural one. It arises of itself, unbidden, like the gentle breathing of one who sleeps in perfect trust. The old dialogue, once so insistent, now appears only rarely, and when it does, it is met with a quiet smile, an old acquaintance whose time has passed. In this place, the embodiment is complete. You have become the one who lives from the end. You move through your hours with an inner ease that needs no explanation. The world no longer startles you with its appearances, for you know them to be only the delayed echoes of conversations long since changed. When harmony appears, you accept it without surprise. When a lingering shadow of the old state briefly crosses the scene, you rest in the deeper, knowing that it is already dissolving. There is no struggle here, no watching for confirmation, no quiet anxiety about whether the manifestation is near. The manifestation is no longer something awaited, it is the state in which you now dwell. Your inner speech is the speech of one already in possession, quietly grateful, serenely certain, utterly at peace. In this embodiment, there is a profound surrender, not to circumstance, but to the truth of your own being. You release the last faint traces of concern about the outer picture. You do not ask when or how or through what means the world will fully reflect the inner. You simply rest in the feeling that all is already accomplished within. And because consciousness is the only reality, the outer must conform. It does so gently, naturally, often in ways you could not have planned. People speak to you as the new conversation has long spoken of you. Conditions arrange themselves in perfect accord with the voice you have faithfully maintained. Love flows toward you without demand. Supply appears without striving. Health radiates from within without effort, all because the inner conversation has stabilized into identity. Feel this quiet confidence now, this inner rest that asks nothing of the world yet receives everything. It is the peace of one who has returned home after a long journey, not to a place, but to the eternal I am expressing itself through a new and lovely state. The desire fulfilled is no longer a scene you visit in imagination. It is the air you breathe, the ground you walk upon. Others may speak of methods, of persistence, of waiting, but you know a sweeter truth. The work was always the gentle occupation of the end, and now the end has occupied you completely. In the stillness of evening or in the soft light of morning, you may sit in gentle silence, not to imagine anew, but simply to enjoy the sweetness of being. The inner conversation continues, yet it is no longer deliberate. It is the quiet hum of a life perfectly aligned. Words of gratitude, tones of certainty, feelings of deep contentment arising effortlessly. You have become the living expression of the truth you once pondered. That man's inner speech shapes his world. And having entered fully into the new speech, the world is reborn in its image. Rest here, my friend. Rest in this timeless now where all striving has ceased and only being remains. The conversation you once chose has become your very nature, and your nature now radiates outward, blessing all it touches. There is nothing more to seek, nothing more to prove. Only the gentle continuance of this quiet, unshakable knowing that all is well, that all has always been well, within the sacred chamber where you speak to yourself in the voice of fulfillment. Let the silence hold you. Let the peace enfold you. Here, in this deep inner rest, you are forever complete. My dear friends, let us dwell together in the quiet depths where true power resides, not in the clamor of the outer world, but in the gentle, persistent conversation you hold within yourself when no one else is listening. For it is this inner speech, this silent dialogue of feeling and assumption that shapes every contour of your life. The circumstances you behold, the words spoken to you, the doors that open or remain closed, all are but obedient echoes of the voice you have supplied from within. The world does not originate its message. It merely reflects the one you have already delivered in secret. Consider how profound this is. Most men live believing that life speaks first and they must react. They hear rejection and conclude they are unworthy. They see lack and affirm their poverty. They experience discord and accept it as their lot. Yet the truth is the reverse. It is the inner conversation that speaks first, and the outer world has no choice but to answer in kind. When you silently declare, I am overlooked, the world arranges itself to overlook you. When you whisper, I never succeed, failure becomes your familiar companion. These are not mere observations of reality, they are acts of creation clothed in feeling. And feeling, my friends, is the secret that breathes life into every assumption. The awakening comes when you realize that you are free, utterly free, to choose an entirely different conversation. You need not plead with life, nor struggle against appearances. You need only begin to speak from the end as one who already is what you desire to be. Imagine a scene, simple and natural, in which your wish is fulfilled. Perhaps a loved one embraces you with deep affection, or a respected voice congratulates you on your accomplishment, or you move through your day with the quiet ease of one whose needs are abundantly met. Do not stand outside this scene as a hopeful observer. Enter it fully, hear the tones of voice as though they sound in your ears now. Feel the warmth of the hand clasp, the sincerity in the eyes turned toward you, and above all, allow your own inner response to arise naturally as the response of one for whom this is already true. This is the great shift from thinking of the desire to thinking from it. You no longer speak of love as something missing. You speak as one surrounded by love. You no longer speak of health as something to be regained. You speak as one radiating vitality. The words themselves matter little. It is the feeling they evoke, the quiet assumption that this is now your reality that carries all power. For imagination is the womb of reality, and what is felt deeply in imagination must be born in the outer world. As you begin to live from this new conversation, you will notice how sensitive the world is to your inner speech. Those who once spoke coldly begin to warm. Opportunities that seemed forever distant draw near. Circumstances rearrange themselves with a grace that defies explanation. Yet there will be times when the old echoes linger, when the outer picture seems stubbornly unchanged. In those moments, loyalty is everything, not a fierce loyalty born of strain, but a gentle, unwavering return to the feeling of fulfillment. Whenever doubt arises, whenever memory recalls past disappointment, do not engage in battle. Simply observe the old voice, let it pass like a cloud across the sky, and resume the new. Speak again as the fulfilled one speaks, calmly, gratefully, certainly. Watch yourself through the day with quiet interest. Notice how often the inner dialogue drifts toward limitation, how readily it interprets um, events to support the former story. These are only habits, remnants of states long occupied. Um, Meet them not with resistance, for resistance gives them strength, but with detachment. Then softly return. If the desire concerns recognition, let the inner voice hear words of praise spoken naturally. If it concerns supply, let it feel the ease of abundance already present. This faithful returning is the true persistence. It requires no force, only constancy. Especially precious are the moments before sleep when the mind is most receptive. As you drift toward rest, let the day be gently revised. Any scene that carried discord, reimagine it in harmony. Hear the words as they ought to have been spoken. Feel the outcome as you wish it to be. Then fall asleep in the sweet lullaby of fulfillment, surrounded by the imagined voices of love, success, peace. In sleep, these impressions sink deeply into the subconscious, where they take root and inevitably bear fruit. As days become weeks and weeks flow into months, something beautiful occurs. The new conversation arises more readily. The old voice grows faint, appearing only occasionally, and when it does, it is met with quiet amusement, an old garment no longer fitting the one you have become. The deliberate effort to return softens and dissolves. You no longer need to remind yourself. The new speech flows spontaneously, naturally as the expression of your true identity. Here, in this ripening embodiment dawns. The desire is no longer something awaited. It is the state in which you live and move and have your being. The inner conversation has stabilized into who you are. You walk through your hours with an ease that needs no defense, a peace that asks no proof. Others sense it, though they cannot name it. They speak to you differently, respond to you differently, because you now speak to yourself differently. Love flows without demand. Supply appears without striving. Harmony prevails without effort. All because the inner voice has become the voice of quiet certainty. In this embodiment, there is a profound surrender, not surrender to lack or limitation, but surrender to the perfection already established within. You release the last faint concern about timing, about means, about outer confirmation. You rest in the deep, knowing that consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being must outward appear. The bridge of incidents forms itself, the world conforms gently, naturally, perfectly.